So, hello and namaste to all my friends all over the world, and especially the Austrian homeopathic group. It gives me great pleasure to invite all of you to a very special series on repertory. I want to invite you to this session of all the different sessions, the first and second session that we talk about repertory and the world of repertories. And we talk about different repertories. Yeah. We start with the idea of Kent repertory. Yeah. In the world of software and the world of so many different digital techniques of using software, I want to introduce to you how to go back to books and go in depth and understand the philosophy, the structure of different repertories so that you can use the softwares in a much better way. And every refined, high class homeopath has had a very high skilled knowledge of repertory. We start with Kent repertory. Well, Kent repertory is one of the most classical and one of the most basic repertory that you begin your repertory kind of journey with. And there's a very nice chapter by Margaret Tyler and Sir John Wire where they explain about how to understand the repertory, how is the structure of repertory. Um, it is one of the most commonest repertory. So we will be talking so much in depth about it. Then we will be also talking at some point, hopefully, about one of my favorite repertories, that is Boger Bonninghausen's characteristics repertory. This repertory is a fascinating repertory. Why it's fascinating? Because in my life, I used to be, in my initial times in my practice, I used to have not very good results in acutes, the dengue, the malaria, the acute fever, the colics. It was very difficult for me to prescribe and I couldn't really analyze so well. That is when Boger Bonninghausen's characteristics repertory walked in my life. And that's when I started understanding how to understand Boger Bonninghausen's characteristics repertory. And when you look at this repertory, there is a special section on fever and fever, chill, and sweat. And if you understand this chapter really well, I can assure you 80% of acute cases of fever, cold, cough, colics, you can manage very nicely with repertory. Especially this repertory is where you see more modalities, more concomitants, and especially in cases where there are objective symptoms like one hand cold, one hand hot. Think about China digitalis lycopodium. Okay, so many things like that. This is a master repertory. Let's go to the next repertory. Also a repertory I'm going to talk so much in detail. Also because it is one of my very deep love. These books, you can see these books I'm introducing to you as my family members because I have spent large part of my lives with them. So I feel very deeply connected to them. The next repertory, Pathak repertory. My God, what a repertory. In a very busy practice, it's very difficult in a place like India to practice without Pathak repertory. This is a fascinating repertory. I'm going to spend some time discussing this repertory. All I can tell is that this is, Phatak, the great Phatak. He was actually an allopathic doctor and how he got converted into homeopathy. And he based his repertory based on Boger synoptic key and Kent and Clark and Boric. And then he formulated this alphabetical repertory. Every rubric has very few remedies here. It's a remarkable. Like, for example, there is a rubric spotty, which means if patient comes and tells you, I get pain here, like a spotty pain. So he has made just one rubric spotty, which means everything in general spotty. And the idea here is to generalize the local symptoms. We will discuss this repertory in depth. There are some very, very fascinating rubrics here. Like in sepia, the rubric is stifled affection. This really explains the core of the deep state of sepia. In opium, he writes negative states. Very interesting. We are going to uncover like a detective, like Sherlock Holmes. We are going to uncover all different patterns here. Another very, very fascinating repertory that I would like you to talk about, and maybe we need to have many more sessions, is Boric repertory. This is, of course, we know this as a Materia Medica, but Boric repertory has some very fascinating clinical rubrics. And very often from here, you can go to many rare remedies, which you will not go normally. Like recently, I had a case of cough with a lot of ulcers in the tongue. So they have a rubric in Boric: cough with ulcers in the tongue. There's a remedy, nitric acid. So there are many concomitant clinical symptoms. So if you're seeing a case with very few clinical rubrics, think about Boric repertory. Again, a repertory we have to go so much in depth. Many rare remedies very often come when you use this repertory. Next repertory, a repertory which we normally don't talk so much about. Robert sensation as if. Again, this is a very, very fascinating repertory. And the idea is if a patient comes and tells you just the deeper subjective sensation of a patient. Let's say he says that I feel as if a knife is throttled in my throat. So in Robert sensation as if there is only one remedy, Merck core. So many things like that you will learn. Of course, I've written a book on this different repertories, which also we will discuss about um, a little later. Another very big repertory, but one of my favorite repertory. It's a big repertory, you can see. And also one of the repertories that very few homeopaths across the globe use, but in a very, very artistic way, Nair repertory. You can see it's written Repertory of Herring Guiding Symptom by Calvin Nair. You know that Nair was directly connected to Master Herring. Okay. So fascinating repertory. In very deep pathological cases in India, we are treating cases very often. Patient is admitted in the hospital. Very few symptoms are there. Just clinical symptoms are there. How to use Nair repertory with that. We are going to learn this and so much more. So these are a little bit of introduction to all these amazing guides of ours in the world of repertory. So I want to invite you to this entire world of repertories and many more repertories in this initial part of the session that we are going to have. You can write to our organizing team. They will put all the details below. And I look forward to study with you. This is just the beginning. Thank you and namaste from Mumbai.